So this is from chapter 11 in your lesson files. And one thing that you'll need to use in this lesson on your sound editing project, you'll need to understand what happens in an audio environment. So if something, so lots of times when we do a video project, we will kind of normalize our audio to be about -6 or -8 dB, and that's fine in terms of just overall audio levels. I mean, certainly they should be normalized, or they should just have something consistent. But have you ever noticed that in a movie, some parts are going to be really, really loud and some parts are really, really soft? And I know it kind of pisses people off when you're trying to watch it in your own home, but it's kind of be expected that you're going to have some times where it's going to be low and sometimes it's going to be high. But what happens sometimes is that you will have objects moving from one part of the screen to another. And this is in your audio project that's coming up, is when you have something moving from one side of the screen to another, you'll need to adjust the pan. So you need to pan from one side to another. And then you'll also need to, if something is moving away from the screen, it's going to get softer. Does that make sense? And if something is moving towards the screen, you'll notice that it's going to get louder, and that makes sense. And sometimes what happens is you can, when we talk about audio effects in the next video, you're going to want to maybe add a couple of video filters in there to make it sound like it's going further away, and sometimes it's going to sound like it's really up close. So one thing that you'll see, so if you open up lessons 11, you'll notice that in the excuse me sequence, so if you go to master sequences, this one lesson is a little bit different than the other ones in that you'll just see a bunch of folders here. So if you open up master sequences and look at the the excuse me sequence, this is the sequence itself, you double click that and you'll see two clips on here. So the one clip, if you play it, so you're not going to hear the audio because I have my earphones on, but when you play it, you're going to hear this. If you are playing this in your computer and you listen to it with headphones, you will notice that there's a little bit of a difference from the left to the right, and you also notice it right here. Okay, so what this is it's a true stereo channel. Okay, so there's a little bit differences in the levels of left and right. So if you actually double click this file and look at it in Effect Controls, you can adjust these separately. So I can add a little bit more or a little bit left to each channel. So if I will make this lower, so if you go to the left channel and drag it down all the way and play it, you'll only hear it in the right. Okay? So you're going to hear nothing from the left channel and everything from the right channel. So Final Cut Pro and Adobe Premiere sets channel 1 as the left channel and channel 2 as the right channel. Okay? So what you hear in the left is going to be channel 1 and the right is channel 2. And vice versa. So if I bring this back to 0, I'm just going to add 0. And if I turn this down, you'll play it again. Now I'm hearing it. And I can actually make this a little bit louder if I want. And of course, I think I had I had toggled this, so it's going to add keyframes. Okay, so if you notice that you can adjust the audio levels of the left and right channel, okay, especially if they're going to be stereo. Now, if you notice that, so notice that you have left and right and balance. So it's all just comes as one separate channel, okay? I mean, not one separate, it's one channel unit. And what you can also do, so I'm going to set this back to 0, and we'll go back and you'll play it. And that sounds fine. What you can also do is you can adjust the pan. So you can actually, in this particular clip, you can adjust the pan from one side to another. So this adjusts the overall output channels, okay? And so it goes to the overall stereo left and right balance control. So if I were to play this, so if you play the clip and modify the balance, so these are toggled, so it's going to create keyframes. So let's just play around with this. So let's start it off with the left and then move it to the right. And you'll notice you would use that panner if you were to have something moving from the left to the right. So you would make sure that you would modify the panner from the left to right. Let me play it again. Of course, I think I have it backwards now. Anyway, so that's how you will modify how things will move from one side to the other. If you look at the second excuse me clip, rather than a stereo channel added as one clip. So see how this is just one audio clip together. Notice that this is actually two clips. So if you look at effects controls, you'll have audio 1 and audio 2 from that clip. So what this is if you notice what happens here, the audio is exact in both channels. So they are acting in tandem with one another. Okay? So notice how these are perfectly aligned, okay? Versus if I were to go back to this one. I'm going to delete the keyframes, go back to what it was, go back to this one, and see how these, so how they are different there. Okay? So those are the difference in audio, in the audio adjustments. So anytime you want to add something and make it feel like the effect of moving from one side to the next, then you want to adjust that panner. And you can also make adjustments to the left and right channels. So in other words, if you were to have two people talking, okay, so if you were to have this person talking to this person, perhaps what you might do is you might have this person just speaking only in the left channel, and then the next person only speaking in the right channel. So it mimics this idea that they're talking to one another. So that's one thing that you can consider in your audio project that's coming up. And the other thing, and this probably bears being repeated, you can actually just look at the overall levels, okay? And if you want to add keyframes here, you can adjust those levels as need be, okay? So this is just adding keyframes So we'll toggle the keyframe editor, and you can make those adjustments and modify those audio levels within your clip. So think about those in terms of your audio project that's due in a couple of weeks. I think it's due maybe 2 weeks from now. And consider how you can manipulate some of the sounds in the silent film.